Nice. Hey, Dhiren.
Hey,
How
Ross. Good. Long time no see.
Big question. How many days a week do you train?
Well, I train every day,
Well,
but I go to the gym 4 days a week.
You train every day, but you go to the gym 4 days a week. That's the question we're going to answer today. How many days a week should I train?
How many days do you train?
I train 5 days a week, 4 days weights and 5 jiu-jitsu. But I allow myself
That's
2
9
days. No, some are 2 days. But I allow myself 2 days rest during the week. Do you have any full rest days?
Definitely Sundays.
Definitely Sundays?
Yep.
What about you, Hal? How many days a week are you training? Because you're more sport specific. You're a basketballer.
7.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
So you're doing something every single day.
Yeah, but like Sundays is basketball.
You're also charged full of tribulus as well. So,
Naturally charged.
Yeah.
well, I guess that question comes down to what your goals are. Whether you're training for sport specific, whether you're training for sort of strength or bodybuilding, or whether you're training for fat loss, will determine your load and also probably your age.
Yeah, and
And
a lot of young guys think, okay, every day let's start training, and that's probably the first mistake everybody makes. More training doesn't always translate to more gains.
You mean you're not supposed to bench press every day?
No, well, that is a mistake I think everyone makes when they first start training, and you don't really sort of start to understand the importance of rest days and recovery until you get a little bit older. But you're so keen in the beginning and you're making such great gains, and you think, I need to continue this momentum or training at the same intensity, the same volume to continue to make these gains. But that can lead to things like overtraining or injury or plateaus. So I guess it's figuring out, firstly, what your goals are.
Yeah.
Whether it's sport specific or training for muscle gain, power, strength, fat loss.
Yeah, and not just overtraining and diminishing returns. There's also injury, right? Training too much increases your risk of injury.
Yep.
Unless, of course, you're a highly trained individual, you can handle a little bit more training. But
So let's look at sport specific. Let's use Hal as an example, right? When do you play basketball?
Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays.
So you're playing 3 games a week.
Yeah, but Saturday mornings is a very, very hungover session. And
Right.
Yeah. Not
So
very-
most people, like at a competitive level, they've got 1 game a week.
If you're playing competitive level, you've got 1 game a week and you're training twice a week.
well, in the NBA, sometimes they play more than 1 game a week.
Yeah, but our listeners aren't in the NBA.
Yeah, but
How do you know? LeBron listens.
Yeah.
Shout out to Delhi.
I guess like most people probably playing 1 game per week.
Yes.
So what's the general rule is to structure your any sort of strength training as far away from that game as possible. So after the game, you need to allow yourself sufficient time for recovery, and then training long enough before next week's game so that you're allowing yourself enough time to recover from the training sessions that it doesn't impede your performance.
Yeah, so you want to you want to maximize your training, but also maximize your performance come game day. So, you have to be sufficiently recovered to do that.
Look, when I was doing strength training, and especially for sport-specific people, I would sort of recommend some sort of recovery session post-game, whether it be the next day, allow a full sort of 28 to 48 hours rest, and then I'd structure sort of the program where we'd be doing 1 strength or power sort of training session per week, and then the other one, so two training sessions per week on top of their normal sort of team training.
Yeah.
Strength training session, and then an agility training session, which is more sport specific. I don't know if that's going to suit everyone, but those sessions were generally sort of 48 hours apart, and they were well away from the weekend games.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good place to start. And obviously every sport is different, but I think we've talked about it a few times. There's this balance of the physical demands, the technical or skill demands, and then the mental demands. So, some sports might require more skill practice. Like, if you're a table tennis athlete, maybe you can practice every single day and and still work out quite a lot.
Yeah, and that's it. Like you look at guys that are sort of more cardio-based sports, there's not so much muscular endurance style involved in their sport, then they can do something every day, most days. I'd still allow some sort of rest and recover days. I think it's super important, especially as you're aging. But for powerlifting, like how many days, like if you're in the middle of a program leading into a comp, how many days a week are you training?
Yeah, well, I guess, powerlifting and bodybuilding are a very good example for measuring training because, you can keep track of your training very accurately because, you know how much you're lifting, how much volume you're doing, how much weight is on the bar.
It's measurable.
It's measurable, yeah. But the answer of what is the best, the best number of times to train per week depends. Depends on how trained you are. For a beginner, training, too often or too little is not gonna benefit you as much, right? Because your recovery time might be a bit longer. But whereas if you're, a highly trained athlete, or an elite powerlifter, for example, you'll be squatting, 2-3 times a week potentially, whereas a beginner might only be squatting once.
And I think you notice that when you first sort of start training, you are, as your body is adapting, you are getting a lot more sore. It is taking a while to recover from those workouts. But then over time, that adaptation process sort of happens, and you are adapting to the workouts, and you are able to handle a more sort of higher volume weekly schedule. So it depends what stage you're at in your training journey as well. And like you said, if you're a beginner, you might sort of ease into it. But if you're an elite level athlete, you might be training every day with different sort of goals on each of those days. One day might be strength power, next day might be cardio, next day might be an active recovery session. So yeah, it does depend where you're at in your journey. From a bodybuilding perspective, I think it's very different the way you structure your weekly routine, because you generally bodybuilders are only hitting 1 to 2 muscle groups per session, or upper body, lower body, they're splitting it. So that does allow you to train more frequently and allow that actual muscle that you've just trained time to recover.
Yeah, and as a beginner, you don't need to. You don't need as much volume as somebody that's experienced to maximize this muscle growth, right, for bodybuilding. So, 3 times a week might be sufficient for somebody starting off, as long as those are full body workouts.
Yeah.
You don't need to move to, body part splits and things like that until you get a bit more advanced. Yeah,
look, a lot of the research says you need sort of a minimum of 2 days per week to make any sort of lean muscle gains. But then sort of training 7 days a week, I think is the extreme. I think somewhere between 2 and 5 is optimal, depending on what your goal is, obviously.
Yeah.
And how you're training as well, whether you're doing just weights or just cardio, or you're splitting between the two.
Yeah, look, and I always recommend to split between the two. You should be, no matter what type of athlete you are, even a bodybuilder, you should be incorporating some cardiovascular training. If you're a cardio-based athlete, I still think you should incorporate some strength training. So my recommendations is, a lot depends on how much time you've got too, but 5 days a week, 3 strength, couple of cardio, or you can reverse it if you're a cardio-based athlete.
That's the way. The worst thing you can do, in my opinion, is just do cardio without any weights, because you'll just end up wearing down on your joints and your ligaments.
Well, you'll actually be breaking down your muscle, right?
Yeah.
So lifting weights, resistance training has like a muscle preserving effect.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing, extended periods of cardio.
Look, for a beginner, I think sort of 3 to 4 days a week in the weight room for sure, and then incorporating your cardio either on those days after your workout or as a separate session is a good starting point.
Yeah. Cool. So I agree. Yeah, beginner 3 to 4 days a week. Probably 3 is enough. As you get more advanced, 4 or 5, and if you're a world class athlete, maybe even 6 days a week.
What if you're one of those people that doesn't have 4 to 5 days a week? Are you, or doesn't have the time to spend sort of an hour in the gym 4 to 5 days a week? What would be your preference? Is it less days in the gym, or shorter sessions that allow them to get in and out quickly?
Well, probably, the number one thing is, of course, consistency, right? So whatever fits into your lifestyle would be the number one thing, right? Between those two. But I would say, trying to get these 4 days a week, 3 days a week, and as long as you can.
Well, it's probably the most important point that you've just brought up is the ability to remain consistent to the program that you're doing. And if that means you can only get in there consistently 2 days a week, then 2 days a week it is. Not rather than going sort of 5 days one week, none the next, 3 the next. Schedule your workouts like an appointment and make sure you adhere to them and you are able to sort of adhere to that program long term.
2 questions, one at a time. I'll get you to answer them. If you only have 20 minutes, if you can go, for example, to the gym every single day, but you only have 20 minutes, what should you be doing?
It depends on your goals, but I would be looking at compound movements that are applicable to whatever it is your goals are.
So full body stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, full body workouts.
What if you can only go twice a week, but you can go for as long as you can, as long as you want?
If you're going twice a week, I'd probably recommend an upper body, lower body split or something like that for
Like
an hour.
Push-pull split or something.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
That's it.
Is that what were you fishing for? Upper body, lower body?
Semi, yeah, for, I don't know, because you asked the question about whether you can only go once or for a short period of time, but you didn't really give a specific answer. So that's a specific answer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess, the same principles still apply. Volume is still very important, right? Volume and consistency are the two most important things. So if you're a beginner, the slower volume is going to be enough. If you're more advanced, you're going to need more volume, which means more days or more hours.
Yeah, and look, playing with volume in each workout is a good way to sort of manipulate your weekly schedule as well. If you're only able to get in there 2 days a week, your workouts might be a little bit longer and higher volume. But if you're able to train 5 days a week, obviously you probably should lower the volume in each of those workouts and make those workouts shorter. So over the course of the week, it might even out the actual overall total volume that each muscle group is getting. So you need to look at that as well. I think the first thing to do is figure out how many days a week you can actually train on a consistent basis, and then structure your program around how many days you're able to train.
Okay. A question for people who are working full time, which I guess a large portion of the population are. How do you recommend they exercise? Because you see a lot of people going straight before work, straight after work. Someone who can go every evening and maybe doesn't want to work out on the weekends, how would you structure that routine? Would it be a push-pull? Would you split it up entirely? Would you do full-body workouts? How would you suggest for anyone who's just looking to gain strength?
If it's just for gaining strength and sort of general gym goer, bodybuilder, I'd recommend 4 days a week. Monday, Tuesday, have Wednesday off. Thursday, Friday, weekend off, and I'd do a split 4-day routine. So it might be chest and biceps on a Monday, Tuesday might be back, Thursday might be shoulders and triceps, and Friday might be legs. And
Yeah, Monday's the most important day. Just give a Monday, you're gonna
just
ruin your week.
A lot of the research says as the week goes on, though, people's adherence to an exercise program sort of decreases. So people always in there on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but as Thursday, Friday and those social days come around, they're less sort of likely to get into the gym or to allocate the time. So that would be another point. I would say if you are one of those people that likes to socialize later in the week, structure it so a lot of your training is up front so that you are getting that training in each week on a consistent basis. I don't think your body knows whether it's Thursday or a Tuesday. So as long as you're sort of getting in that similar volume and you're allowing yourself the right rest and recovery, it doesn't matter what real day you train.
Well, but potentially you could be more rested on a Monday from the weekend, or if you're hell, you could be in worse shape from the weekend. So
I've seen him stumble in here on a Monday morning. So that's definitely a factor.
Straight from Sash.
And that's why International Chest Day exists. The guys that Monday is chest day, if you didn't know, right? So the guys that probably aren't as strict with their routine always start the week with chest and biceps. And
I do as well, actually.
Yeah.
And the type of sport that you're training for as well is going to, and even the position that you play in that sport is going to determine what type of training you're doing. Let's look at rugby league as an example. Like a front rower is not going to train the same as a winger, although the wingers these days are the same size as front rowers. Maybe like an outside centre is not going to train the same as a front rower or a second rower. They're going to have different training programs. One's going to be focused a lot more on sort of strength and power and explosiveness. The other might be more sort of sprint-based training or agility-style stuff. So they are going to be different via the sport, and it's hard to break all that down quickly now. But
yeah, I guess the days of the big, heavy, fat props are over, especially in rugby league. But I think we're seeing this trend across a lot of sports, even MMA. Not very big, fat heavyweights like they used to be back in the day.
Yeah, athletes are sort of getting lighter and more agile, and
placing a bigger emphasis on strength and conditioning. Some of the best strength and conditioning coaches in the world from a weightlifting perspective, are now working across other sports as well.
Yeah, they are, definitely. I guess the importance of this question is it's raised because a lot of people actually overtrain. So I think that's why a lot of people ask this question is how many days a week should I be training? Because they want to train. Like most people want to train. If you're into training, you want to train as much as possible. But it's that mental battle of stopping yourself from training some days. And rest days are super important.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when your body's sort of ability to repair sort of damaged muscle tissue, recover from injuries.
Yeah, your muscles don't grow at the gym. They grow when you're resting and recovering. Yeah. And, when I started and I said I train every day, but I only go to the gym 4 days a week, it means, my off days, I'm focused on doing, some kind of prehab or like stretching or something like that, which, I find pretty useful.
Yeah, prehab and recovery style sessions are still training.
Yeah.
You're still doing stuff with your body. You're not redlining it. But you're doing necessary sort of movements and stretches and mobility that you need to be able to come back and perform when you are doing all that other stuff. So, look, rest days for me are becoming more and more important, especially as I get older as well. And I value my rest days. It's a day to mentally switch off. But, yeah, it's allowing your muscles to grow. Your nervous system as well gets a bit of a break.
Yeah, so, we're talking about fatigue. There's two types of fatigue. Peripheral fatigue, which is fatigue of your muscles and even your joints and things from literally lifting weights. And then there's central fatigue, which is your nervous system fatigue. And if you're not getting sufficient sleep and things, then this could be what's holding you back in performing better.
Yeah, and I guess some of the signs to watch out for if you are overtraining, sleep disturbances is probably one.
Yeah, heaps of muscle soreness, decreased performance in the gym. So, if you're overtraining and you're trying to figure out why your bench is not going up, maybe stop benching every single day. Yeah.
Yeah, delays in recovery. Yeah, plateaus, sleep disturbances. And getting sick very often is a sign of overtraining as well.
And the obvious one is, getting an injury. If you train muscles too often, you're putting them under... asking them to do a lot of work when they're not completely recovered, that's, a recipe for injury.
All right, here's a question for you. You are still sore from the workout the day before, but you're scheduled to work out the following day, different muscle group, you're feeling flat, you don't want to go into the gym at all. Do you still go in?
Yes.
A lot of the time it's, look, getting good at listening to your body is actually hard, and it takes years and years of training to get to that point to know that, hey, I actually do need a rest day, or hey, I might get 5 minutes into this workout and start to sort of power through it. So it's learning to recognize that.
And it's also recognizing, good pain versus bad pain. Sometimes, no pain, no gain, right? Sometimes you're going to get this muscle soreness to get the growth. And, other times it's probably an underlying injury. So,
yeah. And I guess like if you are one of those guys that likes to train a lot, or guys or girls, I should say, that like to train a lot, and don't like too many rest days. I think things like active recovery sessions, sleep, but also nutrition needs to be on point. If you are someone that trains 5-6 days a week and you have minimal days off, that's when things like sleep, recovery, and nutrition become even more important than the training itself.
Yeah, making sure you get enough protein to match the number of days that you're training per week. Is also, going to make you get the most out of your workouts.
My favorite word.
Protein.
Yeah,
and look, and especially like if you've got a big workout the following day, making sure that you've sort of eaten enough carbohydrates to get you through that workout. If you've done sort of back-to-back training days, and making sure that you've got sort of enough proteins and fats and carbs, all the macronutrients to fuel you for that next session and recover from the previous session. So yeah, your nutrition really needs to be on point if you're one of those people that likes to train a lot.
Nice. Good stuff.
Which is me. I like to train a lot, and I have to keep my nutrition on point. It's probably the thing when your nutrition drops off and you're training this frequently, you really notice it.
Yeah.
You notice it in your recovery, and you will fatigue quickly. You'll burn out in a couple of days.
Yeah. And I remember, when I first started powerlifting, and back squatting once a week was what I thought you had to do once upon a time. Then I got into some more serious powerlifting programs. First time I saw squatting 3 times a week on a piece of paper, I was like, how am I going to do this? Yeah.
I still think that. I see a lot of the research coming out now is sort of optimal, like more for bodybuilding style training, is hitting each muscle group a couple of times a week. Obviously, the volume in each workout is reduced, but it's still a bit of a mind battle for me to say, I'm going to train like legs twice a week. For me, that just it's reducing the volume from my previous workout. So again, it is down to the individual, how well you recover and all that.
And then,
sort of stuff.
if you go and look at some of the most highly trained athletes in the world, like the Chinese and Russian weightlifters, some of them squat twice a day, never mind twice a week.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Sorry, you said the Russian and the Chinese?
Weightlifters?
Yeah, I wonder why they're describing.
I don't know. Maybe something in the water. They can handle a bit more volume.
Must be the boatload of Mexican supplements that they're getting in.
Does Miyamoto Musashi have anything to say about
He does.
twice a week?
So, Miyamoto Musashi's quote of the day in relation to how many times a day to train. Okay. Do nothing which is of no use. That's
nice. All right.
Nice and simple,
Spell that
and
out.
do nothing which is of no use. Don't train 7 days a week if you don't have to. You might get all you need from 3 days a week.
That's true. Do nothing which is of no use. There goes everyone in the world on social media. What use is that?
Socializing.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that statement. There's a lot of people that are probably there are heaps of people that are overtraining and compromising. They think they're getting sort of better and getting stronger or getting faster or whatever it is, but in actual fact, you're probably limiting your overall long-term success.
Yeah, and
Definitely. Nice wrap up.
Yeah, that's it.
Nice quick episode today. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Let us know how many times a week you guys train. Hit us up on social media or podcast@musashi.com. Otherwise, we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
That's it. Musashi out.
Out.